Welcome back, everyone, to the Missing 411 podcast. Before we dive into the chilling mysteries we have lined up for you today, tales of people simply vanishing without a trace, I need to remind you about a couple of exciting things. Our journey into the unexplained continues this September with the Bigfoot Alaska cruise, leaving from Seattle. It's a trip for the history books, heading deep into the Alaskan wilderness. You can Google Bigfoot Alaska cruise if you want to be part of the adventure, or check our website for details. I'll also be at a major UFO conference in Washington State this May. You can find all the upcoming events on our site, so please check that out. Now let's get into the heart of the matter. The cases today, they genuinely bother me. They really do, because the region we are focusing on, Michigan, specifically the vast, cold expanse of Lake Superior, has a history of strange occurrences that stretches back decades. These particular disappearances defy all conventional logic, and they perfectly fit the profile we track here at the Missing 411 podcast. We start with a haunting case that only recently came to our attention. It involves a missing seaplane, and I warn you, this was no ordinary mechanical failure. The date was July 11th, 1952, at 4 p.m., and a routine flight was about to become one of the greatest maritime mysteries of the Great Lakes. The seaplane departed from Isle Royale National Park, which is a remote, rugged wilderness sanctuary, heading for Houghton, Michigan. The flight was a scheduled 45-minute hop over roughly 60 miles of open water. Don Turco, the pilot, was a 30-year-old veteran who knew this precise route intimately, having flown it dozens of times before. He was carrying 3 passengers: Clara Powell, her brother John Nordman, and their sister Lillian Seitz, who were all enjoying a vacation in northern Michigan. Now, here is the critical point. They were in a seaplane, meaning they could land on water in an emergency. The lake that day was described as extremely calm, even though it was foggy near the island. But at 4:45 p.m., the plane didn't arrive in Houghton. The Coast Guard was immediately notified and tried to raise Turco on the radio countless times. There was only silence. Not a single distress call. No indication of a fire, engine trouble, or any mechanical problem whatsoever. The initial search effort was massive, involving a Coast Guard cutter, multiple planes, and helicopters, relentlessly scouring that 60-mile corridor. Day 1 delivered nothing. Day 2 brought terrible weather, forcing the search to halt, yet they desperately tried to push through. Still, they found no trace. When a plane crashes, it leaves evidence even in deep water. You should find oil slicks, aviation fuel, pieces of the fuselage, or flotation cushions. Yet, the search teams found absolutely nothing. They didn't see any debris when flying high, and the divers found no wreckage. A few days later, a glimmer of hope appeared when a boater found a cushion floating. But just a couple of days later, that hope was extinguished when a couple confirmed it was a loss from their own vessel. The official search was eventually called off, and for over 2 decades, that seaplane and its 4 occupants were simply never found. The fact that a seaplane, designed to float, can disappear without leaving a shred of evidence is highly incredible. It forces us to ask, what kind of power could cause something so large to completely vanish? This is why it strongly suggests a classic Missing 411 occurrence. Now let's look at the location on the map. This spot, where the seaplane vanished, is barely 70 miles away from a truly unsettling event that happened just a year later. I am talking about the famous 1953 disappearance of the Air Force F-89 Scorpion jet. That jet, piloted by Felix Moncla and Robert Wilson, was scrambled to intercept an unknown, highly anomalous target, what many later confirmed to be a UFO, over Lake Superior. Radar operators watched as the jet converged on the object. Then, in a moment that chills every investigator, both radar targets merged into one blip, and then that single blip vanished completely. This region of Lake Superior, this massive body of water, seems to be a documented nexus point, a kind of superior vortex where objects, including a seaplane, a high-tech fighter jet for people, and one unidentified flying object, simply cease to exist. Could a localized dimensional rift or an extremely powerful, non-terrestrial force be triggering these missing 411 disappearances? We now shift our focus south in Michigan, away from the open lake, to a baffling ground case in Escanaba in the Upper Peninsula. This is an equally tough case involving two young boys, John Johnson, aged 9, and Charles Kobasic, aged 8. This vanishing act contains some of the most frustrating, contradictory evidence we have ever encountered. They went missing on September 15, 1963. The boys lived about a block apart and were last seen playing near John Johnson's home around 11 a.m. When they weren't home by 10 p.m., their frantic parents, one of whom was a police sergeant, mobilized a major search. The very next day, the Michigan State Police brought in specialized canines. One dog immediately picked up a strong track near Highway 35, leading directly into the thick woods outside of Escanaba. This is where the missing 411 strangeness truly begins to set in. Police confirmed to the local paper that the shoe prints found matched the boys' shoes exactly in both size and pattern. Two distinct sets of tracks, heading deep into the forest. They searched every inch of those woods, but the canine tracks suddenly disappeared, as if the boys were lifted up and carried away. After that frustrating initial day, the police released a statement suggesting foul play might be involved. This is a common pattern. When a vanishing defies all logic, authorities often leap to a rational conclusion like foul play to rationalize their failure to find the victims. They want to wipe their hands of the unexplained. The search continued with businesses closing, students joining, and the city broken into meticulous grids. Divers relentlessly searched the local yacht harbor and the nearby water of Little Bay de Noc. But there was a critical, confounding piece of testimony from the families. John and Charles's parents, when asked by the police about the possibility of the boys being near the water, adamantly discounted it. They testified that their sons were genuinely deathly afraid of water. They would walk near a sidewalk but would never go near the shore. This fact, from the most reliable witnesses, is crucial to remember. 4 days turned into 5, and the police were exhausted. They had nothing. Then, at 11 p.m. on September 20th, a man named Arthur Bassner, an unemployed printer who had no connection to the families, went to sleep and had a terrifyingly vivid dream. He envisioned finding the boys' bodies in the water near the park. He woke up, literally shaking, convinced the location was real. He and his friends went straight to Ludington Park, an area already searched for days by professional divers. They walked to a reedy section, and about 100 feet from the shore, they saw a body. Bassner's vision was accurate. Police were called, and within minutes, the second boy was found nearby. The discovery was shocking, but the police immediately took Bassner into custody. Why? Because how could a stranger know the exact spot unless he was involved in the crime? The bodies were taken to the coroner, and the official ruling was freshwater drowning. No bruises, no signs of struggle, just drowning. Once the police heard this ruling, they apologized to Bassner and let him go. Let's analyze the textbook missing 411 profile here. We have the evidence discrepancy. 2 sets of tracks going deep into the woods, but the boys were found in the water. We have the aversion factor. The boys were deathly afraid of the water, yet that is where they perished. And finally, the dream or intuition element. A total stranger, not a psychic or family member, is given the precise location in a dream. What was the purpose of the tracks in the woods? Was it a deliberate, sophisticated diversion to throw search and rescue off the trail? And then we return to the dream. Is the lingering energy the final spark of consciousness, or the soul of the victims, somehow reaching out to the living? Or is the intelligence responsible for the disappearance, perhaps a cryptid entity or an unseen hand, using this bizarre form of communication to return the bodies and end the search? This entire Michigan region, from the Vanish Seaplane to the Escanaba boys, sits in a kind of documented paranormal corridor. The events defy basic human criminal logic. They adhere only to the chilling, baffling logic of the missing 411 pattern. We are looking at an invisible, powerful force that is both geographically specific and incredibly sophisticated. It has the ability to manipulate physical evidence, such as the tracks, ignore psychological boundaries, like the fear of water, and utilize non-human methods of communication, like the psychic dream. For us here on the Missing 411 podcast, we must continue to ask, What common denominator connects a vanished seaplane and children found through a dream in this corner of the Great Lakes? The patterns are simply too tight to ignore. The more we document these missing 411 cases, the closer we get to understanding this impossible mystery. I hope these baffling disappearances are rolling around in your mind. We all need to continue searching for the truth. On a final note, I was out at the store the other day. I think about kindness all the time, and I was checking out with an older lady who was moving slow. I just paused, asked her how she was doing, and smiled. She looked up and said, "Wow, thank you. That made my day." Those small, simple things cost you absolutely nothing. But you know what? Maybe, just maybe, you brighten that person's day just a little. Please share this podcast on your social media. Make sure you are subscribed and that your notifications are turned on so you don't miss our next episode. Thank you for being here today. This has been the Missing 411 podcast.